Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for Oregonians. They make recycling leftover paint, stain, and varnish easy with convenient locations like your local paint store. Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter and reducing waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what's left. And 3, recycle the rest. Learn more or find a paint drop-off site near you at paintcare.org/3simplerules.
The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
There's nothing better this time of year than hanging out with some friends in a backyard, grilling meats and veggies. But the process of hosting and grilling can be a bit intimidating for the newbie. Like, what kind of gear do you actually need? How do you plan the perfect menu? Charcoal or propane? So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Zev Shepard, owner of Proletariat Butchery in Southeast Portland. He's here to walk us through the do's and don'ts of the perfect Portland backyard barbecue. It's Tuesday, August 6th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. What's the simplest setup someone needs for a killer backyard barbecue? Because I feel like people over-prepare, overbuy,
So what people need for a grill, they need hardwood, an axe, and a grate, and that's it.
This is like some scared and naked shit right now.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it appeals to basic human desires, like how we've evolved evolutionarily through biology. It's like most people think from predominantly industrial marketing, like, oh, here's Traeger and here's Weber, and they just force feed you all these commercials like buy this and buy that. Mm-hmm. And really, you don't need any of that crap. Literally, I have gone to a friend's house, taken the grate out of their oven and found a couple rocks, propped it up on rocks, got a pair of tongs, and built the fire underneath it and cooked the most baller steak and sausages you could think of.
Nice.
I mean, a pair of leather gloves from the hardware store is the best purchase you can make. 2 pairs of tongs that are all metal, that are over a foot long. One for handling meat on the grate and one for handling your fire.
So do you barbecue with just wood over propane and charcoal? That's your preference?
Yeah, I actually am fairly naive around propane and charcoal. Well, charcoal I'm pretty good at, but propane scares the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. Like if I come over to your house, Claudia, and you're like, I got this propane grill. You're the professional griller guy and own a butcher shop. And I'm like, shit, I got to do propane. It's daunting for me because you have way less control over fire management.
That's so funny because people think the opposite. Let's talk about fire management because I think that's what people are intimidated is that they're just like, fire is wild. What's the basics of managing the fire?
So let's say to give an A/B test, right? Or kind of compare the two directly. You have a propane grill and then you have a wood fire and you have your pair of 16-inch tongs. Propane grill, you can't really control the amount of flame or heat coming from each one of those little burner thingamabobs. And then if fat drips on them, you can't move them. So then you all of a sudden have this fire that you're like, shit, I got a big fire. And the only thing I can do is just take my meat off of it. Well, with a wood fire, all you do is grab a log and just move it 6 inches to the left or right, front and back, whatever, problem solved. And especially once you get your prep done, I have a little stack of kindling that, took me an hour to make, but that kindling is going to last me, my wife and I and our 2 kids, we cook in the backyard just personally over a fire between May and end of October, twice a week, right? If you prep out your wood setup, which is super simple, you can have that just as functional as a propane grill for an extra 3 minutes of work.
Oh, man. All the Hank Hills of the world right now are grabbing their heart.
I don't know who Hank Hill is. Who's that?
Well, you know what, Seth? It's better that you don't.
I'm weirdly naive about a lot. I just kind of do my own thing, and people are like, this person? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Hank Hill's not real. Don't worry, you're not hurting his feelings.
Oh, the Family Guy.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No, he's not from the Family.
Is that the Family Guy guy?
No. Where this is going. No, Hank Hill is from King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. That's what I meant to say.
And he's like the the Southern guy, and he's just he sells propane and propane accessories.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good 1950s American right there.
Okay.
Fucking Hank.
Fucking Hank. Zeph, now I'm really curious about your setup in the backyard. Like, what do you have? Do you just have a hole in the ground and some grates?
I literally have, because, the cobbler always has holes in his shoes. I don't have anything fancy. And so I live and breathe what I talk about. Like, get 4 cinder blocks and then get a big metal grate. Not galvanized. Galvanized is super toxic.
Okay.
So stainless steel or like bare black metal.
Okay.
Like no coating on the metal whatsoever.
So maybe like the oven.
Yeah,
that's not galvanized.
It's food grade, right? Because you cook in it.
Okay, cool.
Like I've gone to Airbnbs and they don't have a grate. I'm like, I'm just gonna take the one out of the oven. We'll just clean it up before we leave and put it back in the oven and cook over it.
I'm not Airbnb to you, Zeph.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. What are your wood preferences? Like, I'm sure there's different types of woods.
So to start the fire, it's really great to have some Doug fir or some cedar, and those are coniferous pieces of wood, i.e. they have sap and they have evergreen needles. Those burn really quick, but they're unhealthy to cook over because the sap and carcinogenic properties, and they also don't form any coals. So your fire is just gone. So, but it's easy to get the fire going. So you want to start with softwood, but then you want to put in hardwood. So you want to layer smaller pieces of hardwood, start off with like the tent situation, triangle, like a cone, and then that kind of collapses. And then you start to layer on a log cabin, cross-hatching, so you get good air distribution in all those kind of little pockets. And you want to layer in hardwood. And ideally you start to layer in oak, because oak builds the best coal base. And that's going to be ideal for like charring your bread over low, medium heat, charring the cabbage over low, medium heat. And then ideally you have 2 kind of separate fires with the wood. You have your pile of coals, a little low, slow ember burning situation for the sausage, for the cabbage, for the bread, and then a raging fire for your steaks.
So you're generally all about simplicity.
Yes.
But people do need a few gadgets, like you did recommend 2 good long tongs. Is there anything else?
Yeah, a digital meat thermometer is really helpful.
Okay.
So, when people do like this is whatever well, and this is medium rare, and this is whatever, that's a bunch of malarkey. It's
Just
really...
So our listener knows he's like touching his palm.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I'm touching the palm.
Audio medium, so.
Oh, okay, great. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So when people are touching their palm and this part, that's a bunch of nonsense, because my hand is different than your hand, different than Johnny's hand, different than Susie's hand. So a digital thermometer having technology is a great resource in some capacities, i.e. when you want to pull a steak for medium rare, you want to pull it at like 110, 115 degrees, and just touching it from the surface, that's a hard feel to develop. Like I've developed it, but I've cooked literally thousands of steaks over a fire. But here's Claudia. How many steaks do you cook in a year? Like 6 in your backyard?
Oh,
right?
Zeph, you're going to hate this.
You're a vegetarian. We can still be friends.
No.
Oh.
I'm a sous vide gal.
Oh, do you want to talk about that?
I know. I wish you could see his face just drop. He was totally just like, oh no. I know. You know what? It doesn't, it's because I don't have to mess with it, and it's always medium rare. And I still get a char at the end, but I do think that a grilled steak, to me, tastes superior to a sous vide steak. Sous vide is if you're really into like filet mignon and you like that texture.
No. It's not if you're into filet mignon. If you're into it, if you want to be a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah, you know what, Zeph? Maybe I do want to be. Maybe I do want to be.
Hey, we live in a world of convenience, and this makes sense. That's what we do, right?
Look, I don't overcook a steak. That's all that matters to me.
It is. It's a nice cheat, and if you got friends coming over and you don't feel confident, and it is a good cheat.
Throw them in a bag.
Is it a respectable cheat? But it's a functional cheat, and you can lock things in a bit more.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, some ways to avoid some beginner mistakes.
Hey, it's John from CityCast Portland. Let's face it, sometimes bad stuff happens. A serious injury, a catastrophic accident, even a wrongful death. It can really turn your world upside down. And when it does, you deserve unwavering support from a dedicated team. Yeah, you need a lawyer. D'Amour Law Group has over 30 years of experience protecting the rights of Oregonians. Their team of skilled attorneys, led by the renowned trial lawyer Tom D'Amour, will work tirelessly to make sure your voice is heard and your rights are protected. Here's what one of his clients said. Tom fights for his clients from the first day they meet him through the last day of trial. So if you need help holding those responsible for your injuries accountable, contact D'Amour Law Group at 503-222-6333 or visit d'amourlaw.com to schedule a free consultation. They're committed to fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve right here in Portland.
Okay, any newbie mistakes people should avoid that we haven't covered?
Okay, so the unfortunate reality is most people, if not all people, are getting too thin of... The presumption is we're working with beef and we're doing a grilling situation, right? So we'll work off of that. Let's say a ribeye or top sirloin or New York, whatever. Mm-hmm. And when they cut them at the meat shop or Safeway or whatever it is, they cut them, 3/4 of an inch, inch and a quarter, but that ties your hands behind your back. And the reason being is when you're working with that lack of thickness of a steak, an improperly cut steak, there's a trade-off that happens. If you want a good Maillard reaction, good crust, good texture on your steak, you're going to have to leave that on the grill too long where it's going to be medium well or even well done, right? So then it's dry as a bone.
Oh, you're saying it's too thin.
It's too thin,
yeah.
And you need to leave it on the grill a commensurate amount of time to build up the crust on the texture on the outside from the heat. Mm-hmm. So in an ideal world, you get at minimum 1.5 inches thick steak, really to like 2.5 inches thick, but that takes more skill. I would say 1.5 inches to 2.25 inches. And then what you do is you take the fat cap and you score the fat cap, like cross hatch it. And then you put a ton of salt on it, way more than you're anticipating. And then once you're done with that, you take the steak, and this is, no black pepper ever. Ever.
Okay.
Yeah. That's going against 120% of what every fancy chef says. And that's fine, but they're all wrong.
You put the black pepper at the end?
Correct. You finish with black pepper. Yeah. And the reason being is, if anybody disagrees with me, don't take my word for it. Take black pepper, put it in a frying pan, and cook it over the heat the same amount of time you cook that steak, and then eat that black pepper and tell me if it tastes good or not. It will not. It'll be burnt, it'll be acrid, it'll be bitter. It won't be this bright, clean, beautiful black pepper. Also, whole black peppercorn. Ground pepper is it's like sous vide. You're like, okay, if I'm going to be a lazy piece of shit, yeah, I'll get some ground black pepper.
I can't believe you keep coming back to the sous vide with the
Claudia,
perfect steak. I'm just saying, Zeph, it's a perfect steak.
I'm not being, this isn't aimed at you in particular.
What if I walked out of my own interview? Wouldn't that be hilarious? You're just like, what? I was invited. Okay, sorry. So you're saying at the end you finish it with whole black peppercorn?
No, you use black pepper, but you crack it fresh.
Oh, gotcha. Cracked fresh pepper.
Yeah. You chip a tooth if you use a whole black peppercorn.
That's what I was thinking. All right.
Yeah. So I digress, but that's my little diatribe on black pepper. Put the salt on the steak. You score the fat, cross hatch it, boop, 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 like that. Mm-hmm. And another quick cheat on that is buy a cheap little utility knife, and you can set the depth of the little razor blade, and then you won't accidentally go all the way through the steak. Mm-hmm. But if you use a utility knife, you can set the depth to like just 1/8 of an inch, right? Or 1/4 of an inch, and then you just all the pressure you want, and you just score the fat, and it's way more consistent. It's a great little hack. So you put the fat cap down, not lean flesh down on either side. You do fat cap over low, medium heat. And then you pick up the piece of meat, and all the lean flesh is totally raw. But you want to look at your fat cap, and you want the fat to start to look translucent. Mm-hmm. And then stir the fire a little bit to get the flames going, and then chuck that son of a gun directly in the flames.
For that char?
Yeah. And then you char and you chip, and everybody's like, I don't flip. I flip a ton. It doesn't fucking matter. Just watch the steak.
What I am hearing is that you start medium heat to get things rendered with the fat cap down.
Yep.
And you're flipping that, or you just leave it in on the fat cap?
Just leave it on the fat cap. And sometimes I'll take a piece of wood because it'll, it's tall, and place a piece of wood on the side here to have it like lean up against it so it doesn't flop over. And then once the fat cap's like a medium brown tan, just char the hell out of it, take it off. And then selfless plug, use my butcher's butter to finish it. So everybody uses dairy butter. They make these compound dairy butter things with this and that and this and that. But the downfall of that is dairy butter will have a good amount of water content in it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put dairy butter on it, you're just steaming your flesh again, and you're killing all the hard work you did. So if you use animal fat, i.e. my product called butcher's butter, we make seasoned sticks of animal fat for finishing steaks.
Oh, what about if you use ghee?
Ghee is a respectable alternative. Yep.
Okay.
I'll give you that. Yep.
Ghee.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ghee is solid.
I got a good one. I said something he didn't make fun of, you guys.
No, I just didn't.
All right. So what I'm hearing, let me just, because you're really kind of blowing my mind a little here.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's what like set me on my sous vide way is that you get all this information about putting the rub on before you grill all that, and it doesn't taste good. And now I understand why, is because you're burning the shit out of it. And so you're supposed to finish with that. Rub and all that is only if you're cooking slow and low, right?
Yeah, and I'll go a step further. Rubs are generally something that people put on their meat to cover up poor cooking practices, right? And it's putting the cart before the horse. You should get basics down, and then if you want to do fancy rubs, cool.
Well, let's talk about the food itself. So the problem for me when I'm hosting is I get overwhelmed at the grocery store because I worry about having something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I have veggie friends. I have gluten-free folks, people who, don't do dairy, all that stuff. Do you have friends who are veggie friends, or do you just
totally.
not have? Okay.
No, vegetarians are cool.
Yeah. So how are you cooking for, like, when you go shopping, like, what's your strategy?
I buy vegetables.
What veggies are you talking about? Tell me about it.
Oh, man, anything. I don't know, broccoli, zucchini.
Have you done cabbage? I hear cabbage is like amazing.
Cabbage is awesome. Grilled cabbage is spectacular. And then just get make a basic chimichurri. The thing that's great about chimichurri, you can throw it on the steak, you can throw it on the vegetables. I love romesco, roasted red pepper.
Ooh, romesco's so good.
And
almonds
hazelnuts or almonds. Yeah, like a romesco sauce is fucking spectacular. Or like an arugula pesto, like our garden in our front yard, we just made a bunch of arugula pesto because our arugula is popping off. The tough thing about cabbage, literally and figuratively tough, is I would cut the cabbage probably like an inch thick and then grill it low and slow over low medium heat because it's a really tough vegetable. So drizzle it with oil, not seed oil, not vegetable oils, olive oil, coconut oil, or ghee. Ghee's great, like you said.
Here's the deal is I've seen people do like half a head or like a quarter, let's say a wedge.
Yep.
And they'll put it in a wood fire oven and it's really thick, but it'll come out like so soft with a nice char. Like,
I mean, that's a half an hour though. If people want to commit, that's a good 30 or 40 minutes for sure. But if you're grilling like an inch thick and toss them in some oil, put them on low medium heat, and then I would probably use a spatula because those things can kind of fall apart sometimes.
Yeah.
So spatula, flip them, grill, and then just make a big batch of chimichurri. People can put it on their meat. People can put it on their vegetables. It's delicious. Yeah. And then make like a nice seasoned olive oil. Take some garlic, smash up some rosemary because rosemary grows like a weed around here. Anybody who buys rosemary at Whole Foods, please don't do that. Just take a walk in your neighborhood. Within a block and a half, you'll find rosemary. I'd recommend probably picking it 2 feet and above because dogs are taking peas. So you don't want to get piss-soaked rosemary. Mm-hmm. And then just chop that up, put it in some olive oil like the morning of, and let it steep for a bit, and it's stunning.
Yeah. Okay, so what about the meats? Obviously we should ask for 2-inch cuts for steaks, but what else are you getting from the butcher?
I recommend 2 types of protein. Whether it's salmon and beef or pork and beef or lamb and chicken. inevitably, even if you think lamb's amazing, someone's not going to like lamb.
I hate lamb. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
know.
cook some lamb for you. You'll like it.
Really? It's just
Yeah.
always so sweaty. I'm not into it.
No. You're just having a good lamb. Trust
Okay.
me. I'm going to feed you a piece of meat, not tell you it's lamb, and you're like, God damn, this is good. And then I was like, I gotcha.
I love that this is what you live for, too. And I can imagine that you're just like, ha, ha, ha.
I mean, meat's delicious. It's just been poorly prepared for so many people that they rightfully form a lot of unfortunate opinions because that's been their experience. But that doesn't mean that there isn't another side of things that could be really well done. So 2 pieces of protein and 2 types of vegetables grilled. And then, or if a salad, just a simple light vinaigrette, man. Just good olive oil, some mustard, some honey, smashed head of garlic, and either lemon or some vinegar, and just shake the hell out of it in a mason jar. Similar with like a potato salad, I tend to go towards like a vinegar-based potato salad because the meat is going to be really rich. Or coleslaw, I tend to go with a vinegar coleslaw because then that balances out the fat and acid of the meat with the coleslaw.
Are there any places you recommend for grabbing certain foods, like, meats or your veggies? Like, do you have any Portland places that you're like, oh, these are the spots?
No, I don't like to advocate for one place over the other and different people's financial means. I don't want to say go to X or go to Y or go to A, but just get fresh vegetables and season them lightly with olive oil and salt and pay attention to your grilling. And that's it. Whether it's Winco or whether it's Providor, whatever your financial situation is, because all those people deserve to do something rad. Ask them for a beefsteak that is 1 3/4 to 2 1/4 inches with a fat cap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Okay. So another important part of a backyard barbecue is, aside from the food, is that you're like the host,
Yeah.
What are your tips for being the ultimate barbecue host?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like a nice hardwood tabletop that's like, let's say 4 feet by 2 feet wide, and all the food's just put on there. So I'm pulling a piece of meat off the grill, throwing it on that table, just carving it and leaving it on the table with another pair of tongs, and people can just come up with a plate and eat it off the table. Mm-hmm. And then usually you just have like a group of people just talking, drinking, and eating around the table. It's very elemental. You're just eating with your hands, and I don't like things overly formal. I want to like be up next to Claudia's shoulder and we're just like eating meat and vegetables and we're like, this is awesome.
So that's it? Like no vibes, no music vibes?
Oh, music.
I'm assuming you have a wife. Is she helping you host? Like,
yes.
What's going on?
So my wife is a sommelier, so usually we'll have like a couple drinks. Oh yeah, pre-batch a cocktail. That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Pre-batch a mojito, pre-batch a margarita, and don't put ice in it, right? Keep it pre-batched without ice, and then have a cooler of ice, and then just people pour it in a cup. Mason jars are great. I don't like using plastic cups because I try to love the earth, and I don't like drinking out of plastic. A rosé or a white wine, 2 different cocktails, and then an NA beverage for people who don't drink.
Nice.
And then 2 types of protein, 2 grilled veg, a light vinaigrette salad, and a charry piece of bread.
Oh, you char the bread. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Come on, girl.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And your veggie friends come and they're like totally stoked. Do you allow people to bring their own stuff and crowd your grill?
But I don't want like a whole random hodgepodge of potlucks, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to bring something, I'm like, hey, JJ, who's my vegetarian kind of vegan buddy, I'm like, bring this. Mm-hmm. He's bringing the cold salad, or he preps out a vegetable that we can grill. I'm like, bring enough cabbage steaks, tossed in olive oil or whatever you want to season it with for 12 people. Mm-hmm. And that's his mission. Don't just tell him to bring a vegetable. That's like sometimes you go to a party and people just bring stuff and you have like 8 bags of Doritos. You're like, what the fuck are we doing with 8 bags of Doritos here?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just give people more direction. And then the experience is way more just focused. And then people can share like, hey, did you like that lamb? I didn't have the lamb. No, everybody had the lamb. So then you have something to discuss, right?
I love that you're just like harping on this lamb.
I'm just using it as a thought experiment.
I don't know if I'm going to like this lamb is what I'm saying. I've had a lot of lamb.
I'm going to have you and John come to a barbecue and I'll be like, hey, Claudia, eat this steak.
And I'll be like, is this the fucking lamb, Zeph?
And then I'm going to lie to you and I'm going to say no. And then you're going to eat it and be like, wow, this is really good beef. And I'm going to be like, ha,
I'm going to know it's lamb.
But then you're going to eat it, and then you're going to have cognitive dissonance, and then you're going to be like, well, shit, this is really good. Now I have to relinquish this concept that lamb isn't good.
Zeph, now all I want is like a cold glass of wine in my hand and some steak.
Hell yeah.
This is what's happening right now.
A nice dry Riesling.
Yeah, a nice dry Riesling.
Yeah.
And like some undercover lamb, I suppose, is what's going to happen. Just
totally. Undercover lamb and Riesling. Yeah.
Well, Zeph, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean,
my
seriously, this was you've really inspired me to try again. Lighting up a steak rather than doing my bag in water.
Yep.
Cooking which works.
It does.
Which works.
I get it. I
right.
understand the convention. I don't respect it, but I can empathize with it.
Thank you, Zeph, for still respecting me.
No, I say I don't respect it. I understand it though. Yes.
Not respecting.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I'm a man of principle.
Get out of here, Zeph.
All right. Yep. Ciao.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.